Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View Ladies Tea. Tonight, welcome back Breitbart politics editor Emma Jo Morris and host of The Liz Wheeler Show, Liz Wheeler. Ladies, welcome back. Love having you. We had quite a week last week. Arraignment number 4 for Donald Trump, former president of the United States. It's crazy, Emma Jo, we even say these things out loud, and yet here we are. And I'll tell you what, Fulton County, a county prosecutor, Fani Willis, however we say her name, had to go for the mugshot. And I guess they thought that this would be a real negative for Donald Trump. I got to tell you, that like blue steel look or whatever he had going on in that mugshot, I've never seen a better looking mugshot, to be really honest with you. Not only that, the campaign raised $7.1 million just following over the weekend after that mugshot came out, $20 million in the past 3 weeks. So if the goal, Emma Jo, is to stifle the campaign somehow, tell people that Donald Trump is not a viable candidate, they shouldn't vote for him, oh, look, here's a mugshot. So far, it doesn't seem like it's been working out for them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, definitely agree. I don't know if it was like that people, like here, this is my take on it, which I published on Breitbart. This mugshot, even though this is like technically the 4th time we've gone through this, but it was the first time that we got a visual. And I think that what that did was it really reframed, I think, definitely the primary and even the general, actually, probably especially the general, because what it did is I compared it to like flag burning. Like that was the kind of thing that it evoked in me when I saw it. That was what it made me feel like. And I think it reframed this to put it into context of what we've been going through over the last few years, which is, I listed in my column, I said, we went through COVID. And in COVID, they locked us in our homes, essentially, for over a year. They forced people to stop going to work. U.S. citizens who are free, ostensibly free people. We were not allowed to go to work. You were not allowed to go to church. Your kids weren't allowed to go to school. Not only that, but they weren't allowed to go to the park in some states, like mine. So people, went along with it, though, because Americans are decent people. It was a health scare. Okay, we'll keep our head down and let that go. Then a couple months later, the laptop from hell breaks in the New York Post that is censored from the internet. We've since found out that that was a collaborative effort with the intelligence community, the Democratic Party, and the media and social media companies. Again, what? Like in the lead up to the election, the government just decided that, actually, we don't want you to know that story because we think it might impact your vote and we don't want you to vote that way. Super alarming. But again, the American people just put their head down. That was a weird moment and, move along. And now they have the leading opposition candidate to the government who was just fingerprinted and mugshotted, and that was released to the public. And now it's in the context of what I just said, it's turning into, this isn't about any particular issue insofar as every issue is against the backdrop of a creeping and actually, in my opinion, like careening authoritarian like tendency that we're seeing. And I think that that's how a lot of voters are seeing it now, where it's not even about any particular issue. You can disagree about Trump on all kinds of things. You cannot like the humor or whatever. But this is the symbol of defiance now. A vote for Trump is a symbol of defiance of all of that, central planning, elite, kind of like just tyrannical situation that you have on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, it's so spot on. It's so accurate the way you just laid it out there. You're right. I think they miscalculated this, to say the least. And in doing what they did with the mugshot, in the necessity, by the way, Liz, to even have a mugshot of one of the most famous people in the entire world. I mean, I would argue Donald Trump is probably one of the most recognizable figures in the past 30 years in the world. Everyone seems to know what he looks like. He is not a flight risk. They had to put a $200,000 bond and a mugshot out to make sure that he didn't flee somewhere. And of course, he made fun of it, saying, like, where is he going to go? To Russia.
This is how he said. He was like, on my plane that says Trump.
Yeah, because it's that absurd. And it's so clear that the reason they did this was they wanted to embarrass him. They wanted to try even harder to just double down on everything that they've been doing. Like, it hasn't been working. We see that every time there's an indictment, arraignment, whatever, his poll numbers continue to go up. And they're like, oh my God, like, it's not working for Trump. Put the mugshot out. This is the one in a county court in Georgia. We got to put the mugshot out now. Now is the time. And in some crazy way, they almost made him a martyr. Like, that is actually like the physical symbol for people of all that we've been dealing with. Like you just said, Em and Joe, over the past like 3 or 4 years in this country, all the hell that people have been going through. And anybody, by the way, who feels like they've been wronged by the system, screwed by the system, they see themselves in that mugshot of Donald Trump, and they're pissed off about it, and they're tired of it. And I think people at this point are just like, that's it. It's, like we were talking about before the show, Emma Joe, it is scorched earth at this point. People are ready to go out and vote for Donald Trump. Liz, what did you think of the mugshot? I don't think it's been effective at all for them. I think it's having the opposite effect.
No, it was intended to be the ultimate humiliation, this ultimate tactic to degrade him, to show the American people, or to portray him as nothing better than a common criminal. It obviously wildly backfired. This is, I would argue, the most iconic mugshot in the history of our country, if not the history of the world. I mean, this belongs on barbershop walls next to Frank Sinatra and Jane Fonda and MLK. Like, this is the most awesome mugshot that I have ever seen. And I think a lot of people, as Emma Joe said, responded in a very visceral way to this, maybe even differently than we responded to some of the other indictments. And I think the reason why is we can objectively recognize when the federal government, or in this case, probably collusion with the federal government, with Fulton County, but we can recognize when government has been weaponized against a political figure unjustly, and we feel righteous indignation about that. For example, these accusations that President Trump mishandled classified information when he was the president and had ultimate authority to declassify, we can objectively recognize that that's stupid, that it's petty, that it's wrong, that it's unjust, that it's a sham prosecution of him. Yet we as private citizens might have a hard time relating to that because we've never had the power to declassify. We don't have classified information laying around our homes. We can be angry on his behalf, but that is about him. When we see this mugshot, though, this evokes a visceral reaction that calls me back to 2015. Dave Chappelle, comedian Dave Chappelle, has a great piece on this when he says one of the reasons that a rich guy like Donald Trump became the working man's champion is because for the first time in American political history, you had someone that could be classified as an elitist. He's certainly in the top 1%, who came out of this elitist club and said, guys, all your suspicions about the system being rigged against you, about politicians doing things to harm you when they know it's harmful and choosing to do it anyway, it's true. And I know because I was there and I saw them do it. And yet he came out of there and he said, now I'm going to stand between you and these elitists. I'm going to take the fire on your behalf. And suddenly this rich guy became the working man's champion. And that's what people, I think, viscerally feel with this mugshot. We've seen over the course of the past year, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI come after parents for trying to unseat school board members who want to teach our children to be racist and trans. We've seen conservatives called militia violent extremists. We've seen an attempt by the left to criminalize our free speech. And that's what we see when we see this mugshot, that the left wants to stop us and throw us in jail. But once again, Donald Trump is the one bulwark between the radical left trying to criminalize us. And that reaction, I don't think that reaction has been evoked since 2015. And the left's tactic, this is, I mean, you saw it in the fundraising numbers. That's just the beginning. You can talk to anybody, your family, your friends, other political figures. People have not felt this feeling in years, and the left grossly underestimated it.
Yeah, and the timing is very interesting how it all happened too, because we had the GOP debate on Fox News literally the night before, right? And I mean, you could just so clearly see there were all these people up on the stage. None of them, as far as I'm concerned, Emma Jo, really believes that they have the ability to become the president of the United States. I guess they're maybe auditioning for VP. I don't even know if they really believe they can do that. I guess some of them trying to raise their name profile. And then immediately the next day, this, arraignment of Donald Trump, the mugshot. I mean, it couldn't be more clear to people whenever you compare the people who were on that stage. And by the way, let me just talk about real quick the Tucker Carlson interview. Over 250 million, 250 million people as of like last week had watched it. I'm sure the number is up by now versus what I think 13 million who watched the debate. What a contrast between the debate on Wednesday night, Emma Jo, and then obviously what happened to Donald Trump on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it blew anything prior to that event out of the news cycle. Obviously it was, it was historic. It was seminal. What Liz was saying is so true. Like there was something even so iconic about it in his undaunted kind of facial expression. Like it was so Trump, and all of this is so Trump. And that's the thing that we're all remembering, I think. At least like I'm thinking about that now as I cover him, is like, oh yeah, this is the guy who controls the news cycle. And he has this ability to just feel like you're like a marionette, because this guy just does something and it just seizes the attention. And even when he's not there, like at the GOP debate, like he's not there. And by not being there, he controlled the narrative.
The topic. Yeah. It's like, it's amazing.
Because it's just this elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, and they're all trying to kind of differentiate themselves from each other and from him. And it's kind of, it came off as kind of like squabbling. And then he does this Tucker thing, and it really felt like, obviously, I mean, you're one-on-one versus them where they're screaming over each other, trying to fight for airtime. It was the aesthetic of it and the production of it was just so Trump. And then the next day he has this mugshot. And, I was just thinking, like, while Liz was talking, and I was thinking about the column that I wrote too. And it was like, what it did was I think it hit this nerve where people are starting to realize that this game is going to be zero sum. You see Donald Trump in a mugshot, and you realize like these people aren't playing. And
oh yeah.
It seems like this election is really like the winner gets to be president and the loser goes to jail.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and if honestly,
and it's been escalated to that point. It's not the American people who escalated to that point. It's the government who escalated to that. Nobody wanted that. And even like, during 2016, which another thing that I was thinking about while Liz was talking, with the Chappelle thing where he said, this is so funny. I'll never forget this, where he was on the debate and he's like, I know Hillary is for sale. I bought her.
Oh my God, like so epic. It's true though.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, it's starting to feel like there's some kind of that 2015 energy, but it has a different flavor. It has a flavor of where the ante has been upped. But the truth is, like with Trump, like this is just, I think, an objective fact is that he's the best when his back is up against a wall. And I'll be really curious to see, how he performs in politics when he's in this position, because it seems like he just loves a fight. Like that's when he's at his peak performance.
Well, and by the way, that's the face that you saw in that mugshot. That is the face of somebody who's a fighter, who is ready to fight, who is in the midst of the fight and is not backing down, he's ready to go. And I think you're right. He is the best when his back is up against the wall. It feels like, though, more so than just like the winner becomes the president and the loser goes to jail. I actually feel like if the Democrats are able to get away with this, and there is not a Republican elected, and quite frankly, if it's not Donald Trump elected in 2024, I just don't know. I don't know how you come back from this as a country. I don't know how at what point are they going to be like, all right, well, now we're done kind of like, doing things that are unconstitutional. Now we're done, harassing and trying to put in jail our political opponents. We're going to now play by the rules. I don't feel like they do that, Liz. I feel like if this is allowed to happen, if this corruption goes totally unchecked, it feels like we're not going to have the same country come 2024 that we've always had.
Well, we're certainly not. And I write extensively about this in the second half of my upcoming book, Hide Your Children, Exposing the Marxists Behind the Attack on America's Kids, which the second half of this book is actually a critique of the Republican Party and how the Republican Party has fought or neglected to fight for the past 50 or 60 years. The tactics that the Republican Party has used to fight against evil people with evil intentions has obviously been ineffective, or we wouldn't be at a point where our children are being transed in public school and parents aren't being told. And the primary opponent of the president of the United States is in 4 different places being threatened with jail time just because he disagrees with the president. Like, this is not normal. This is not chaos, or this is chaos. This is not something we should accept. But it is going to continue if we just allow Congress members to send out mean tweets and hold hearings to get viral videos, and if we're just righteously indignant amongst ourselves. We need to understand the reality of the political enemy that we're facing, because if we don't, we won't fight well against them and we won't win. I want to win. You guys want to win. We need to win on behalf of this country. So a couple of the things that we need to do as the Republican Party and as conservatives is understand that there is just use of government in situations like this, whether it be banning critical race theory and transgender ideology from schools and government organizations, or whether it be conservative district attorneys around the country actually charging and indicting Democrats, not because I'm advocating for a tit for tat. The Democrats abuse government, so Republicans should too. No, not at all. The Democrats deserve to be indicted because they've actually committed crimes. Right. Hillary Clinton sold access to herself when she was Secretary of State. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are doing that right now, profiting off of Joe's position in government. I mean, James Comey allowed the FBI knowingly to be weaponized against Donald Trump. These people deserve to be in prison. And yet, our federal government, Congress, the squishes in the Republican caucus aren't doing anything. We have mechanisms to hold these people accountable if Republicans have the fire in their belly to actually use it. But we've fallen for this false idea that limited government means never using the government, when that's not what limited government means. Limited government just means it has enumerated powers and it's held accountable by we the people. But there is a just use of government authority when lawbreaking has occurred and when our society is in disorder. And if Republicans don't grasp and embrace this idea and fight like we understand the enemy that we're facing, then yeah, we are going to continue to lose.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, I can think of a couple who need a little bit of, I don't know, pushback on them. And the National Archives just revealed that they have 5,400 emails in which Joe Biden potentially used fake names to forward government information and discuss business with his son Hunter. Emma Jo, why would you need to use all these fake names? Why would you need all these different email addresses, a variety of them, if you're not doing something that's a little nefarious, a little untoward, so to speak? Why would Joe Biden have to use fake names in this situation? It's very interesting. And 5,400 emails, really.
Yeah, totally. It's extremely sus. And, I think you mentioned before, there's no one that has any classified information just lying around their apartment. Although I think I actually might, because I have the laptop from hell here, and I don't. I don't know the classification on the stuff on that, but that's a joke for all the cops listening. That's just a joke.
It probably does have some emails from Robert R. Ware. What are his other, pseudonyms Joe Biden's using?
Yeah. So that's it. So, and I had seen stuff like, where he's getting like the schedule and whatever. But here's the thing, what I think is behind that, just based on what I've seen on the laptop is, and what I know about this case and the situation, is Hunter Biden never registered as a foreign agent. So he was representing Burisma and all of these like oligarchs and freaks from wherever, and he never registered as that. So if he is representing there, the way FARA works is just, are you representing the political interest of a foreign entity or government? He obviously was. If he's communicating with his father, even if he's just sending his clients the schedule, it's still a political activity. Right. And he would have to register for that. So I wonder if that's the reason why they were using aliases, not necessarily to conceal. I mean, obviously they are concealing. what I'm saying is I don't know if they were necessarily sending out the nuclear codes insofar as they were just sending pertinent political information to Hunter for his clients, and he isn't registered under FARA.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Either way,
but
you put a Trump name on there, and I'm pretty sure somebody would have investigated it. They would have already had us locked up somewhere. There'd probably be mugshots of us out there if it were one of us who had done that sort of thing. I hope that we get to the bottom of that. Here's how I know the Democrats, though, are a little concerned as we head to 2024. They're starting to bring back the COVID hysteria. Ladies, they want you to dust off that old disgusting, useless mask that apparently also will make you sick. CNN had to, blow things up and let people know it's time to break out the masks for the new COVID surge. I'll tell you what, I dare them to try to get people to comply again. Liz, I'll tell you, post-COVID and after we finally got rid of all the mask mandates and all that nonsense, and of course now we know the masks did nothing unless you're wearing an N95 mask. It was absolutely useless. All the time on planes, people were just harassed and thrown off of planes. Some people were on a no-fly list over this stuff. They're talking about bringing it back. Some colleges have already started to implement mask mandates. Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Rutgers, by the way, is still requiring their students to have the COVID vaccine, which we know does not mean that you're still going to get COVID. Even if you got the vaccine, you could still transmit COVID. What is the point? I don't know. When I hear, Liz, that they're going to start trying to bring back some COVID measures, it sort of makes me a little suspicious now that we're a little over a year out from a big election. What do you think?
Oh, of course. Before we get to COVID, I want to add on to one thing that Emma Jo said about the pseudonym story. I wish that Republicans would brand Joe Biden's pseudonym emails as the Carlos Danger emails, because this is exactly the same thing that Anthony Weiner did. And everyone remembers that. If we want to make this a story, we have to evoke the scandal of Carlos Danger. And people, I promise you, would start to care about that. They should care about it, by the way, because it's obviously like shady and sneaky, and he's hiding stuff, and we know exactly what he's hiding. And the American people care. It's not just a partisan issue. We learned that from the Hunter Biden laptop story. People on both sides of the aisle care about this corruption. So we got to plaster this on every wall. When it comes to COVID, listen, this is actually in our control for once. And it probably was in our control the first time too. There were just a lot of people who were fearful, who had their heads in the sand, who didn't realize the depth and the grip that the deep state has on us. They didn't realize how corrupt Big Pharma and the CDC and the FDA are. But this time we have a choice. The first big company that complies with a mask mandate should be Bud Lighted. They should be absolutely ruined. We should boycott them into oblivion. We've done this with Bud Light. We've done this with Target. We had a unique thing happen this year as conservatives. For the very first time, our power as consumers, we actually harnessed. We've done pseudo boycotts in the past, but they've never really worked because people weren't committed, because they didn't believe in their own power. For the first time, we've realized, you know what, we actually do have the power and we know how to use it, and we understand how important it is, and we will use it. That's what we have to do this time. We have to ruin any private company that complies with this at all, because it's not just pseudoscience. It is pseudoscience. Masks are not effective. They're actually harmful, but it's tyranny. It's tyranny. It should be our decision whether we want to put a cloth over our face. We shouldn't have a government official telling us that we have to do that or else face some kind of penalty or be ostracized from society. This is a really, really serious issue. There were some documents that were unearthed, I believe it was by Bannon's War Room, that showed the Biden administration has contracts, the federal government has contracts with COVID test makers and advisors on COVID policy starting in September and October through next April. Well, if this is an actual pandemic, an actual virus, how do we know that it's going to be gone by next April? Of course, we don't, but we do know that next summer, starting in April or May, is the ideal time to say, I saved the country. I saved us from the pandemic. Vote for me in a couple of months here. The American people, I will never put a face mask on myself again. Period. Under any circumstances, ever. I will never comply. Not that I really complied in the first place. The only time that I complied was on an airplane. But I will never comply with this again, and I will make a stink about it in public. I won't be respectful. I won't be quiet. I won't be like, okay, you do you, I'll do me. No. You will be getting the full dish of shame and disgust if you are doing it or try to make me comply. If we do that, Laura, I think that we can actually stop this. It's just a matter of if we're going to stop it this time, because we didn't the last time.
I just don't understand. Here's my problem. I generally assume that people have some semblance of common sense, right? I don't know. Maybe I give people the benefit of the doubt, Emma Jo. I don't know. I did some traveling this weekend, had to take quite a few flights, and I was in several different airports. And what I can tell you is that there are people out there who are taking this new COVID strain to heart. I saw more people over the weekend in airports and on airplanes with their masks on, ready to go, ready for this new COVID strain. And look, I'm not knocking anybody. If you have a serious health situation and for whatever reason you need to wear a mask, please, you should be doing it. But these people, I guarantee you not all of them needed to be wearing masks. So there are already people who are falling for it. We just pointed out, I think both Liz and I talked about the fact that not only are these masks ineffective, now we have science to tell us, it was just kind of slid in from the NIH, that these N95 masks, the only ones that actually prevent the transmission of COVID, expose wearers to dangerous levels of toxins and compounds that could cause seizures or cancer. And I mean, what are we doing here? It really concerns me that there are people who are already falling for it. They're ready to go. They've been so excited to get that mask back out. They couldn't wait to put it on.
Of course. And does that surprise anybody with common sense, really? I mean, if you like reach back into your memory to the days where COVID was really crazy. And I mean, I was in New York, so you had to like literally wear a mask everywhere, like even on the sidewalk. So I was buying like, these boxes of masks that are like, you get like 1,000 masks for like $10. It's like, what do you think is in that? And like, where do you think it's made? And how do you think? Of course it makes you sick. And of course it's disgusting. And
I felt bad when I was wearing them. I was like, God, I can't breathe. I would get a headache.
That's awful. It was awful. And then they made you wear it at the gym. The whole thing was just disgusting. And
I was pregnant the first time we had to mask. And I literally had to take an oxygen saturation monitor for my finger whenever I would fly, because my oxygen saturation would drop, and that was dangerous because I was pregnant at the time. And I was wearing like a fake mask, right? Like one of those ones that's like absolutely porous that really wouldn't do it wouldn't hold a drop of water. And still it made my oxygen saturation drop. Like the whole thing was so bananas from the beginning.
Yeah, I used to wear the ones that you could like vape through. Like I would just put the vape up the mask, and you could like inhale the vape and breathe out the vape, and it would like exit the mask. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I don't think that they kind of pull this off this time. I'm just skeptical because this requires a level of public cooperation. Mm-hmm. Like Liz was saying, like there's absolutely no circumstance, and me too. I mean, I don't know if I'd be as ungovernable as Liz, but
Liz is ready. She's going to throw down for this, and let us know, Liz, because we'll come and watch it.
I'm just not going to wear it. Like that's kind of it. Like I'm just not going to wear it. And I think that the first time around, people were really freaked out. I mean,
but that's right.
Like, there was like a pretty broad like freak out. So
because we were told that the masks were effective, and we were told that if you cared about anybody, you'd wear the mask. If you didn't want to get somebody potentially sick, you might not know if you have COVID and whatever. But then as soon as people found out these masks didn't do anything, let alone these dirty, disgusting masks that nobody washed, those cloth masks that everybody had like laying in their cars and stuff, disgusting. I mean, that's it. I'm not wearing them again. I'm not doing it either. I'm done. It's over.
Yeah, it takes a certain, like you can't have like a mall cop outside on every single street corner making sure that that you're wearing your mask, so it requires a certain level of public cooperation, and I just don't think that they have it. They have to know that they don't have it. I mean, maybe in certain enclaves of like Brooklyn or something, but other than that, no, and I don't even think like people who are maybe at risk of COVID are even willing to do it.
Yeah,
That's why they're going to use one of the big corporations, though. They're going to use airlines, and they're going to use things like, I mean, all of us, we travel for work. That's really difficult to stop traveling just to take a stance over masks. So they're going to use these mechanisms, these public-private partnerships to enforce this. Because yeah, government mandate, like, what are you going to do? Put us all in jail? Like, please go ahead. We all want mugshots too now. But they're going to use these private corporations, and if we don't stop the private corporation and hurt them, then they're going to cooperate. I feel just a little bit cynical about this, actually, because I thought the American people would stand up and say no the last time. I was living in California at the time when Gavin Newsom was the first governor to shut down the 14 days to slow the spread. And I thought, there's no way people are going to do this. There's no way people are staying off the beaches when it's perfectly beautiful weather in March and April in San Diego, California. And then when he extended it, I was like, no way are people like going to not take their kids to the park. And I was repeatedly shocked and disappointed that so many people complied across the country. So I'm a little nervous, I guess, about whether people are going to do it or not. I did read a study that said that the people that persist in wearing masks are the ugly people. So I don't know I don't know what we do with that information, but it's out there.
Well, you don't have to put as much makeup on, I guess, if you're covering your face in a giant, ridiculous, useless mask. Which brings me quickly to Alice Cooper, just to wrap us up here today. I'm sure people are very familiar with him. I mean, talk about somebody who I just see as kind of like an anti-establishment person, just a rocker, just kicking down doors with his makeup. He partnered with Vampire Cosmetics and was dropped because he dared to make the mistake of saying that we should just leave the kids alone and stop pushing all this trans stuff on them. Essentially, he said, I find it wrong when you've got a 6-year-old kid who has no idea. He just wants to play and you're confusing him, telling him, yeah, you're a boy, but you could be a girl if you want to be. If you have these genitals, you're a boy. If you have those genitals, you're a girl. That's it for him. Emma Jo, they're done with him. They're going to try to make an example out of him. I don't know what he said that was so sensational. I think that's the basics there. And it kind of makes me want Alice Cooper to go off and do his own thing, because I'm interested in what kind of cosmetics we're getting out of this guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, if I was his publicist, I think he should lean in, because there was a day, and I mean, Eminem, this is an interesting contrast with Eminem, which was just yesterday, where rappers and rockers kind of have a very similar mandate in that the point is to be iconoclastic. The point is to rage against the machine. That's what rock is. That's what rap is. I mean, Eminem famously is the reason why we have the parental advisory sticker, because he was at war with Tipper Gore. And Tipper Gore now decided that because people in the suburbs were starting to listen to Eminem's music, that now we needed to warn parents. Yeah, it's all part of the same thing, which was amazing for Eminem. And that was like, this guy's really hard. And the thing about the trans stuff is that it's so mainstream. It's so the machine. It's so the man. It's endorsed by every single Fed and corporation that you can imagine. And so him actually taking an oppositional stance on this is very punk and is part of what his service is to society, which is as an artist and as a rock, to kind of try to rage against the machine and be an iconoclast. So I think he should lean in. I think he should make this part of his brand. And you're seeing this more and more. It's like, Sabo said that, the street artist, conservative street artist Sabo, I think he was the first to kind of coin this, where he made this really great poster. It was Republican is the new punk, because it so is.
So true.
Has just embraced all of these stupid social justice slogans and in this case, like child mutilation. And the only people who are standing up to it that's unfashionable. That's supposed to be your role as an artist, for sure.
Yeah, I think good for him. I think you're right. I hope they make this part of his whole brand now and do whatever. Because tell you what, there are a lot of people who probably have never listened to Alice Cooper who might become fans because of this, Liz. I don't know. Again, I'm just mad that I'm going to miss out on whatever kind of cosmetics he was kind of pushing out there. Because in my mind, we could have some really good eyeliner. I don't know. Would you be in the market for something like that? What do you think?
I totally agree with Emma Joe. I would lean in if I were him. I would release a statement that just says like "F you, Vampire Cosmetics" or whatever it was, whatever this partnership was. I've never even heard of them. And
me neither.
I would launch my own and say, if you actually want to be punk, you actually want to think outside the box, you actually want to rage against the machine, then you buy this. And I guarantee that it'll make news. I guarantee that there'll be leftists that'll go and support Vampire Cosmetics, and there'll be independent thinkers who go and support this. We need some of these big figures, some of these celebrities, these singers and these actors and these musicians who make the correct statement and then like within 48 hours walk it back. We need some of them to stand strong, because all it's going to take is 1 or 2 or 3 of them, and they're going to break this cycle. Hollywood, listen, is like, I have a friend who's a high-level Hollywood figure, and I was talking to this friend about how this works. I was like, clearly when one of these celebrities makes a comment, they get the call, right? I was like, but what is the call? Who's this coming from? What's being said? Like, who's actually like making these threats? And this figure in Hollywood was like, basically what happens is it's not actually the Human Rights Campaign or one of these activist organizations. Hollywood is essentially like North Korea, where they just rat on each other. So celebrities are so brainwashed that they're just texting each other and calling each other and saying, you can't say this, this is bigoted. And people are so afraid of the peer pressure that they cave. But you would think someone like Alice Cooper, I mean, who thank goodness to my knowledge, at least up to this point hasn't caved, would have a position in Hollywood so iconic, so deep, so long. I mean, he's been famous for how long, that he would have enough friends that he could just say, okay, if you literally think we should chop off the genital of kids, like, I don't want to be friends with you and I don't care about your opinion, so send me all the mean texts you want, but I'm going to stand up for the truth here. Just 1 or 2 or 3 times and the bullying would be neutered.
Well, that's what you can tell that it's so fake. Like, you know, with Eminem, like Eminem just happened yesterday, so I'm thinking about that in comparison, and it's like Eminem was mad at Vivek for singing herself. And what's Vivek's
so funny?
No, but what's Vivek's crime? It's dunking on Ukraine and saying like, we're not going to war in Ukraine. Like, there's absolutely no reason for us to do this. And then Eminem gets mad at him for singing his song because that's his opinion and that's his unfashionable opinion. But Eminem wrote Mosh, which, if there aren't Eminem fans on this call or in the audience, Mosh is a song by Eminem where he is literally just lambasting George Bush for Iraq. And he says, even in the song, we have our own problems to deal with at home. Why are we going and bleeding and dying in Iraq? This is just George Bush's war. This is a vanity project. And that's what he's talking about. And he's talking about like raising hell to get the troops home, and that this is nuts. And it's like, no, like Eminem, I literally posted the lyrics to Mosh on my Twitter account last night, and I wrote quiz, Vivek or Eminem, because he sounds like Vivek today. And now he's coming out and it's like, oh no, don't sing my song. It's like, those are literally your opinions from 15 years ago.
But yeah, what happened? Even if you go back and look at Barack Obama, when he was first elected, his stance on things like the border are totally different. It sounds like Donald Trump talking whenever you go back and listen to Obama. What the heck happened to all these people? How can you so radically shift your position on these things, honestly, in a relatively fast fashion? I don't understand how it's possible.
It's one thing to be a politician and do that, because that's part of the job, is to be fake in an empty suit. But when you're an artist, it's just like, okay, so you sold out, like,
right.
You're cringe shady, like, you know, that's just like what I think.
I really think
you're overproduced.
I really think that it is indoctrination, brainwashing, and peer pressure. Like, the peer pressure in Hollywood, like, you get jobs in Hollywood not because there's open casting calls. You get jobs in Hollywood because you know somebody, because of networking. And if you have one negative thing, you have one negative thing said against your name and you're never going to work again. It's already a hard enough business to find work in, as we all know. And so you're terrified that there's going to be one negative thing about your name, because then the studios won't touch you. The studios won't touch you because it's a liability to them and their ESG rating. And that kind of peer pressure, people, especially if they're not a principled person to begin with, I mean, that's hard enough for like people like us, and we're professional right-wingers is what I would call us. That's hard enough for us to withstand, let alone someone who's not political and not principled and doesn't really understand the battle that they're fighting.
Yeah. Well, that's why we've got to stand strong in all this. That's why we're not putting the masks back on. We're not doing any of this stuff. We got to be a good example for the next generation, quite frankly, because God knows we can't survive if people are this woke and stupid all the time. All right. Well, ladies, I want to say thank you, Emma, Joe, and Liz, for joining us here for another great episode of The Right View Ladies Tea. To everyone at home, please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARAT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.